Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. I am very, very excited today because I am going to be talking to you guys about the Chaos Cult Kill Team out of the Ashes of Faith box that Games Workshop was so generous to send us early. I just have the screenshots here, so we're going to be going through all the relevant pages. We're not going to talk about the narrative stuff, but as far as the actual rules of this team and how they play and how they operate, it's going to be a blast. I'm really excited for this team, so let's just get into it here. So to start, this is the team. So there's no list building really here, I guess technically. So you start with a Cult Demagogue, 2 Blessed Blades, 10 Chaos Devotees, an Iconarch, and a Mind Witch. The archetypes this team can take is Infiltration and Seek and Destroy. So let's do a little quick math. That's 15 operatives that you start with on the board. So right out the gate, this is a straight horde on the level of like a Gellerpox. And if you guys can probably imagine, it's mostly a melee team, much like Gellerpox. Let's skip the Tac Ops for now because we're going to get to that. Let's talk really quick about the mutation ability. There's a lot here. So I'm going to give you guys the cliff notes because you have the screenshot in front of you. You can just read it, pause the video. But I'll explain it for you here basically really quick. So basically, during the battle, your Chaos Cult operatives can mutate. And when they do, basically, if it's a devotee, which we have 10 of, you can turn it into a mutant. And then later, you can turn that mutant into a torment. So, and then it... instead of mutating, you can just heal, which I don't do that, guys. So I guess you can use it to heal like a torment or a mutant, but not something I would recommend. Basically, though, the way it works is an operative cannot mutate more than once per turning point. You can never have more than 5 mutants and 3 torments on the battlefield at once. Essentially, the times when you get to mutate these operatives is in the strategy phase. You can, when it's your turn to do a ploy, you can instead mutate a number of friendly Chaos Cult operatives equal to the turning point number. And so on turn 1, you can mutate 1. On turn 2, you can mutate 2. And on turn 3, you can mutate 3. Okay? So, the other times, that's not the only time it happens, though. You can also mutate at the end of a combat for if a devotee operative inflicted damage and was not incapacitated. Spoiler alert, that one's not going to happen very often. The devotees are very, very weak, but that is an option. And then the last time when this can happen is when a friendly Cult Demagogue operative performs the Accursed Benediction action, which your leader can do this once per turn. So you're going to have, realistically, on turn 1, you'll have 2 easy mutations. On turn 2, you'll have 3 easy mutations, and so on. But let's talk about what else happens when an operative mutates. Basically, you swap the minis. You just swap them out, take out the devotee, put in the mutant, or take out the mutant, put in the torment, and it can land within engagement range when this happens. And then any wounds it lost are ignored, so it comes with its new full wounds remaining, which is really interesting. And then there's the second part of this whole process, which is Accursed Gifts. And I had to read this one a couple times before it started to make sense to me exactly how this works. So essentially, Accursed Gifts, you get them when you mutate. When the first time a devotee mutates into a mutant, you select an Accursed Gift. And the first time a mutant turns into a torment, you select your second Accursed Gift. Now, it's really easy to read this and think that the mutant that mutated gets that gift and it's their gift, or like the devotee that mutated into the mutant gets the gift. But actually the gifts that you choose apply to all of your mutants and all of your torments. So you're only going to do this twice per game, although there is a ploy we'll get into later that lets you do it more than twice for a specific operative. But essentially that's how this works. And let's just go over the gifts because there's 6 of them. First one is Winged. Ignore any or all modifiers to its movement characteristic. Pretty good. So basically it ignores that for injury. And ignore the first distance of circle it travels for a climb, drop, or traverse. That is really good. That makes these guys really fast. Okay. I'm a big fan of that. There's Fleet, so add 1 inch to this operative's movement characteristic. I mean, if you paired these two together, your mutants and torments are going to be super quick. Chitinous, improve this operative's save characteristic by 1. We'll get into it later, but that's going to turn your 5-up save into a 4-up save, effectively. Horned, each time this operative finishes a charge action, you can select one enemy operative within its engagement range to suffer 1 mortal wound or D3 if it is a torment. That one's interesting. Sinewed, you can... I don't know what that word is. You can ignore any or all modifiers to the weapon skill characteristic of this operative's melee weapons, and their melee weapons gain brutal. So that is also very intriguing. That was going to be tempting for sure. I think that's probably my favorite one, along with Winged or Fleet, whichever one of these I think would be more useful. And then there's the last one, Barbed. You get Reap, so just never take this. It's horrible. All right, so those are the accursed gifts. Let's move on. These are the ploys. Do we do the ploys now, or do we talk about the operatives? Let's talk about the operatives first, because I think the operatives give a little bit of context for what's good here. Okay, so first we have the leader, the Cult Demagogue. This is a 2 APL model, 6-inch movement, 5-up save, 8 wounds, kind of a weakling. It comes with a pistol and a diabolical stave. So the diabolical stave has a 2-inch range shooting attack, 4 attacks on 4, 3/6 with stun, and then it's also got a melee profile. Same thing, basically. Interesting. And it's got that accursed benediction action that lets you mutate your friendly operatives. So you can't do it with an engagement range, and you have to pick an operative that is within 6 inches invisible to the demagogue. So, I mean, you can set this up in a way that it's not too hard. I'm personally a really big fan of this ability. It lets you get the extra mutation out per turn, and I think this is kind of going to be the demagogue's job, at least. It doesn't seem to be a particularly effective melee operative, but let's see what else it can do. Or melee or shooting. It's just not really much of an offensive threat. But it also has the Induce Slaughter 1 AP action. You pick a friendly Chaos Cult operative visible to within 6 inches. They can immediately perform a free fight action. Okay, interesting. And then there's the Incite Urgency action. So one friendly Chaos Cult operative visible to within 6 inches of this operative can immediately perform a free dash or charge action. And if it charges, it can only move up to 3 inches. This operative cannot perform this action while within engagement range. Okay. Interesting. That's pretty good. I do think Accursed Benediction is the main role of this model. You want to just create mutants and torments as much as possible. But it is nice that there's, the occasional... It's got a lot of options, which... I know it's easy to look at these options and be like, oh, yeah, I probably won't do that too often. But it's better than it just not being there. It'll help you once, maybe. And when it does, you're going to be really happy for it. So, cool. And then we have the Blessed Blade, which, if you remember, you could take 2 of these operatives. So this is a same chassis as the leader, but it has a Commune Blade. No shooting attacks here. 4 attacks on 4s, 4/6, lethal 5-up. So... it's a power sword that hits on 4s. Not amazing, but let's read its abilities. So each time an enemy operative starts a fallback action while within engagement range of this operative, you can use this ability. If you do so, that enemy operative suffers D3 + 1 mortal wounds. Okay. I don't know how often people are going to be falling back from you. I mean, who knows? Maybe this thing will charge and fail to kill you, and then you don't want to fight it because it can hit pretty hard if it lands, but I don't know. And then it's got a tuned-in purpose. So each time this operative is activated, you can also activate another ready, friendly, Blessed Blade operative within 6 inches of it at the same time. Complete their actions in any order. Okay. So I think the way to get around the 4-up ballistic skill is to just buddy up with these two and double charge the same guy. That way you have combat support, I guess. This makes sense. I mean, pretty interesting operatives. It's not like you have a choice to take them. They do hit pretty hard. I don't know. This is interesting. Okay, let's move on. The Iconarch. So the Iconarch has It's basically an icon bearer with a few extra rules. It's got that same exact defensive profile. It's got a burning sensor, though. This is something I like. So 6 shots on 2s, damage 2, 3, range 6, torrent 3. Torrent 3, that's a lot of torrent. So this is actually a very good flamer profile. Hitting it, six shots is really the big thing here. Most flamers have 5 shots. 6 shots is amazing. The fact that it's got an extra crit damage makes it better than your average flamer. The fact that it has 3-inch torrent makes it better than your average flamer. Yeah, it's just an above average flamer. He also has a pistol and a crude melee weapon that kind of sucks. He's got the icon bearer ability, but here's where it gets really interesting. So first of all, Ruinous Deterioration. Each time an attack dice would inflict damage on an enemy operative within 4 inches of this operative, add 1 to the damage inflicted from that attack dice. So if you are using Burning Sensor and you're within 4 inches, it's 6 shots on 2s, 3, 4, torrent 3 inches. That is crazy, crazy strong. That is a really good profile. And it's not just his attack dice either. Like if he's near somebody and another guy charges that person, they're doing +1 on both of their damage characteristics on their weapon. So that's crazy good. I'm a huge fan of this ability. And then he also has Ruinous Invigoration. Each time an attack dice would inflict damage on a friendly Chaos Cult operative within 4 inches of this operative, subtract 1 from the damage inflicted from that attack dice to a minimum of 2. Oh my goodness. So this is like the best damage reduction, pretty much. It's each time. It's not just on him. It's on a bubble, a 4-inch bubble. So it's an 8-inch radius surrounding him, basically. And it subtracts 1 from the damage. It doesn't have to be normal. It doesn't have to be crit. It's just any damage. And it's to a minimum of 2 in a world where most damage reduction is currently to a minimum of 3. Yes, it's tied to a single operative, but I still think this is extremely powerful, especially if you're like your torments are really close to him. Oh my god, we'll get into the torments later, but that's a really good model. All right, let's talk about the Mind Witch, which, oh my goodness, look at that. What a nasty guy. Okay, so same defensive profile. You're noticing the pattern there on all the Dark Commune operatives. So fists, basically nothing, but it's got a few psychic actions. This is your psyker. So Heinous Deluge. Select 1 enemy operative in this operative's line of sight. Subtract 1 from its APL. Pretty good versus Gellerpox. I like that. Malefic Vortex. Remove your Malefic Vortex token, if any. Then place a Malefic Vortex token in a location that is visible to this operative or on a vantage point of a terrain feature that is visible to this operative. Treat it as an intended target for the purposes of the visibility line. Each enemy operative within circle of this token suffers 1 mortal wound. In addition, at the end of each turning point, each enemy operative within circle of that token suffers 1 mortal wound. Okay. So, I mean, you could do this as the last activation and just bop a group of guys with 2 mortal wounds, which is nice because typically teams aren't going to be, like, you don't have any other blast attacks. So, I mean, you know, your opponent might not be staying outside of 2 inches because they know that you're not going to hit him with a grenade launcher. But this is, like, nice little chip damage. It's not a lot. It's honestly, it's not that great, but I can see it being annoying for sure, especially at the end of a turn. And then there's Infernal Gaze. Select 1 enemy operative within 6 inches of this operative and in its line of sight. That enemy operative suffers a number of mortal wounds based on the closest distance it is from this operative, and these are not cumulative. So if you're within 2 inches, D3 plus 5 mortal wounds. Woof. If you're within 4 inches, D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. And if you're within just 6 inches, more than 4 inches, 3 mortal wounds flat. So you can't do it while you have a conceal order, so you have to expose yourself a little. Okay. I mean, getting within 2 and popping a potential... I mean, statistically, you're going to kill a 7-win model with this if you can get within 2. That's nice. That is pretty nice. Okay, so let's move on to the devotees. These are your basic cultists. These are the models that are mutating. You start with 10 of them. They're GA2, 7 wounds. Everything else is the same, though. 5 up save, 2 APL. They have a pistol and a crude melee weapon, which is pretty weak, but it has 4 attacks. So there's going to be, times when you can actually charge something that's weak and hit it once and then parry it out, and then you mutate to get an extra mutation. That's pretty cool. I really like that a lot. I think 4 attacks on like a basic grunt like this, even if the damage profile is really low, is good anyway, because it lets you parry out sometimes. But the fact that you have the added benefit of potentially turning into a scarier monster, if that happens, is really, really nice. So let's go down to the Chaos Mutant. So this is what your devotees mutate into. So they still have 7 wounds. It's actually the same profile defensively, except it's GA1. Basically, it's got Blasphemous Appendages now, no more shooting, which is 4 attacks on 4s, 3/4, so the damage bumps up. Relentless and Rending. So, I mean, I think this is a really good profile offensively. I mean, not really good, but I think it's pretty good. You're going to get those crits more often than not. So I like that. It's got the Accursed Mutant ability. Basically, mission actions or pickup actions costs an additional APL, which makes sense. They're monsters. And then it's got, there it is, Unnatural Regeneration, a 5-up Feel No Pain. So those 7 wounds are more like 9 wounds, 8 or 9 wounds, typically. Really cool. Okay. But let's get to the host of the party, so to speak, the Chaos Torment. This gigantic guy, you've seen the pictures of him probably. He's huge. I think he's on a 40 mil base. So this is, the profile changes pretty dramatically. He goes all the way up to 13 wounds, so almost double the amount of wounds. His melee weapon is Hideous Mutation, so 5 attacks on 4s, damage 4/5, Relentless Rending. Whoa, that is really good. It's got the Accursed Torment ability. It cannot perform mission actions at all, or the pickup action. And if it gets set up while it's carrying something, it drops it. And light terrain and operatives with wounds characteristic of 11 or less do not provide cover, so it's kind of like the Nightmare Hulks and Gellerpox. And it's got Unnatural Regeneration again, so the 5-up Feel No Pain. So these 13 wounds are like, let me do some math. It's like about 18 wounds, 17, 18 wounds most of the time. That is pretty sick. And remember, when these guys mutate, they get their full wounds. So like even if a mutant was like close to death, you can mutate it into a torment all the way up to 13 wounds. So that is just filthy. All right. Let's look at their equipment, because they've got some good ones here that I really like. So Frag Grenade, Crack Grenade, your torments can't use them, but everybody else can. So you'll probably take a crack, maybe a frag. Trophy Weapon, 1 equipment point. For the devotees specifically, their melee weapon or their pistol, I think you can pick either one. You add 1 to the damage characteristics of that weapon. So those guys that I was talking about who have pretty decent melee, 4 attacks on 4s, 2/3, 4 like a grunt guy, are now 4 attacks on 4s, 3/4. So that is way above the curve for that type of unit. I really like that. So, and that's 1 equipment point. So, I mean, pretty nice. Covert Guise, this is for devotees only. At the end of the scouting step, if it's wholly within your drop zone, it can perform a free dash action. So, typically when you're setting up with this team, you're going to know which guys you want to turn into mutants on turn 1 and therefore turn into torments on turn 2. So, I mean, this is a way to pick those models out, give them this equipment, dash them up, and just get them closer into the board right out the gate. So, huge fan of that. And this happens before you mutate, too. So, pretty cool. Chaos Sigil, 2 equipment points. They get a 5-up invuln. So, not amazing, but I mean, I can see this is another thing, kind of like what I was just saying. Like, you can give it to the guys who you know are going to be torments on turn 2, and then it's a 5-up save, 5-up invuln, 5-up Feel No Pain. There's a lot of layers if your opponent has AP. I like it. Big fan. Vile Blessing. 3 equipment points. You can only take 1 of these. It is effectively, it is a just a scratch once per game. You have to do it before you resolve your Feel No Pain, so you can't roll your Feel No Pains, get a really bad result, and then use it. But you're going to take this, I think, and you're going to put it on a guy that's going to be a torment. And the nice thing here is if the operative you give it to mutates, they keep the Vile Blessing. So that's 3 equipment points I think reserved right there. You're just gonna take that, and you're gonna turn that guy into a torment on turn 2, and he's gonna be a nightmare. Okay. Honestly, they have a lot of really good equipment. Chaos Sigil is a situational pick. Covert Guys I like. I love the trophy weapons. The only thing I don't love about them is, eventually these guys are going to stop holding, the crude melee weapons, and they're going to transform. But still, it's not bad. There's Vile Blessing. I mean, there's going to be some guys you don't want to transform, right? Because you need some people to do mission actions outside of the Dark Commune operatives. So still not bad. It's really cheap. You'll fill out your points with this for sure. Vile Blessing you'll take every turn or every game. I think you will do, I don't know, it's going to be tempting to like dump 7 equipment points into 2 covert guises and a Vile Blessing. I mean, at least 1 covert guise I think is going to be useful. And then you've got a crack grenade. So this team has a lot of choices to make. The only thing I think isn't a choice is Vile Blessing. I think you just take one. So anyway, let's go and look at the ploys. That's not ploys. There they are. So strategic ploys first. We have Exaltation in Pain. Basically 1 CP until the end of the turning point. They are not injured. Cool. And then each time a shooting attack is made against a friendly Chaos Cult operative that has less than its starting wounds remaining, you can reroll one of your dice. Okay. The not injured thing is really nice. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure how often you're, like, this seems like a later game thing to like make your mutants stay useful, like your mutants and your torments. I don't know. Not bad. Fervent Onslaught for 1 command point. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Chaos Cult operative fights in combat, and the roll attack dice step of that combat, before rolling your attack dice, you can retain 1 as a successful normal hit without rolling it. Pretty nice. I mean, you see this on like Vetguard, and Vetguard takes it, and Vetguard has bad melee, which is part of why they take it. But I like that. I'm a fan of it, especially when a lot of your attacks are like hitting on 4s with Relentless. To just skip that, it's a 75% chance for an individual 4-up with a reroll to go through, but to just like remove that variance for at least 1 hit is really nice. Okay. Creatures of Nightmare for 1 command point. Until the end of the turning point, when determining control of an objective marker that any friendly mutant or torment operatives are within circle of, treat enemy operatives' total APL as being 1 less. Okay. I like it. It's going to be good on those like central objective battles that you're doing, especially on like open board, or like when you finally move over into your opponent's objectives with those torments and mutants. Okay. And then Sickening Aura. While an enemy operative is within circle of a friendly mutant, torment, or dark commune operative, worsen the ballistic skill and weapon skill characteristics of that enemy operative's weapons by 1. This is not cumulative with being injured. Well then. Cool. That's really good. I think that's maybe my favorite. I don't know. Fervent Onslaught is good too. Late game Exaltation and Pain is going to be good. Sickening Aura is amazing though. I mean, that's going to turn combats that are like maybe close to really bad, like especially against other melee teams. Woof. Okay. Tactical ploys. We got Faithful Follower. Uses tactical ploy when a friendly cult demagogue, Iconarch, or Mind Witch is selected as the target of a shooting attack. Select 1 friendly Chaos Cult operative, excluding one of the aforementioned operatives, that is visible to and within circle of that friendly operative. Resolve that shooting attack against that other friendly operative instead. Okay, so it's like to save your protocols. What's funny is you can like have a torment jump in the way and like take no damage. I like that. Okay, that's sick. That's probably one of the better savior protocols we've seen outside of the fact that it costs a CP. There's just really good targets for it. Okay, Abhorrent Mutation. Uses tactical play when a friendly Chaos Cult operative, excluding a Dark Commune operative, is activated. Select an accursed gift for that operative to gain. So I mentioned this earlier. This is basically letting an individual operative get a 3rd gift. Normally they're going to have 2 by the time like turn 2 rolls around. Yeah, I like this a lot. This is pretty cool. Frenzied Demise, 1 CP, uses tactical play when a friendly mutant or torment operative is incapacitated. Inflict D3 mortal wounds or D6 mortal wounds if that friendly operative is a torment on one enemy operative visible to and within circle of that friendly operative. So there's a little bit of flexibility here. It's not just on the operative that killed you. It's you pick an operative within circle. That is interesting. I mean, I use this sometimes with Gellerpox when it's like a D3. So I'm imagining that, especially with a torment getting killed, the D6 is pretty nice to just throw some mortal wounds out on a crucial operative. And then we have Unleash the Demon. Use this tactical deploy in a friendly mutant or torment operative's activation. It can perform a free fight action during that activation, and it can perform 2. So the 2 fight activations is nice. The really interesting thing here is the free fight. So they can't really do mission actions, so it's not like you're going to charge, fight, and like tap an objective. But, you can charge multiple guys, fight them both, or you can, and you can also, it doesn't say you have to activate this when you activate the model. You just use it during their activation. So you can charge something, fight, and then it lives, and then you pay 1 CP. And now these 2 bullets are active. So you can do another fight because you're allowed to do 2 fights. And you have no APL left, but you can do a free fight. So I'm pretty sure that's totally legal. I'm a huge fan of that. That is really good. I think that's probably the best of these tactical plays here, personally. Okay, let's head over to the TAC Ops. So we have the first one, Faction TAC Op 1, Tear Through. You can reveal this at the end of the battle. If you have a friendly torment operative within circle of your opponent's drop zone, score 1 victory point. Okay. And if you have a different friendly torment operative within circle of your opponent's drop zone, score another. Okay, I don't know. So in order to determine how easy this is, I need to think about how many torments I really expect to have. I mean, you can only have it's set over here. You can never have more than 3 torment operatives on the board. So, I mean, maybe just by the fact that they're so hard to kill, I can imagine making this work. I think it's really easy to get the first point on it. I don't know how easy it is to get multiple torments. Maybe it's easy. Maybe by the end of the game, that's gonna be happening anyway. And if you have less than 3 torments in the last turn, you can run a devotee down or a mutant down, and then have your leader run up and mutate him so that he has a torment at the end. Pretty cool. All right, next up we have Profane Defilement. This is Faction TAC Op 2. You can reveal this TAC Op in the target reveal step of any turning point after the first. So if a friendly Cult, Demagogue, Iconarch, or Mind Witch operative starts and ends the turning point within 3 inches of the center of the kill zone, you score 1 victory point. Ooh. So basically it's center control, but you need to start and end there, and it has to be with one of these 3 operatives. And you have to do it twice. So I don't know how easy this is. I mean, the idea would be you move them up into the middle on turn 1. And then on turn 2, you reveal this, and they're just going to, not leave the middle. I think this is bad. Especially because they could just kill. You want these models doing things. You don't want to just sit in the middle and not do something you'd otherwise want to do. So I don't love that. Blood Offering. Faction TAC Op 3. You can reveal this TAC Op in the target reveal step of any turning point. For each objective marker, the first time an enemy operative is incapacitated within 2 inches of it, place a Blood Offering token on that objective marker. If any friendly operatives perform the Blood Prayer action below, you score a victory point. And if you perform a Blood Prayer action on a different objective marker, you score another victory point. So this is how you do it. It's 1 AP. An operative can perform this action while it controls an objective marker that has a Blood Offering token on it. If the operative is a Cult Demagogue operative, it can instead perform this action while within 6 inches of an objective marker with a Blood Offering token on it. So you kill an operative on an objective, and then you put a Blood Offering token there, and then your guys do the action on it, or your leader does the action within 6 inches. Your leader is going to be doing other stuff. I don't think that's, I don't know. I think maybe that's not reliable. But I guess, I mean, your devotees can do it and your other guys can do it. I mean, the annoying thing is, not annoying, but the unfortunate thing is your mutants and your torments aren't really going to be capable of doing this because the mutants cost an extra APL just to do objectives, and the torments can't do mission actions at all. So not amazing. I don't love that. I think this is hard. You only need to do it twice, though. Maybe it's not that bad because, like, let's say on a lot of the open boards on Crit Ops, there's 2 objectives in the middle of the board that are, like, centrally located. And if you're going to kill somebody on them, probably, if I had to guess. And then your other guys can, later in the game run up and do that action, I suppose. Maybe this isn't bad. I'm not willing to roll this out. And then remember, they have Infiltration and Seek and Destroy, so a lot of the time they're going to be leaning into those Seek and Destroy ones. Maybe Infiltration. Probably not, but maybe. Maybe that is good, actually. I mean, the Torments and the Mutants, they can't do mission actions well or at all, but they can still, their APL counts for things. So, like, if you take, like, the Seized Defenses, like, you can run a Torment up to a barricade and kill what's next to it and then control the barricade. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But yeah, I mean, I think the way I'd want to play this team is very similar to how you play Gellerpox as far as like positioning on the board and how you move up. It's going to be really passive. You're going to spend a lot of time keeping your 15 models as safe as possible on turn 1 and probably turn 2 as well. But I mean, yeah, if you're playing this correctly, you're going to mutate a guy on turn 1, a devotee into a mutant. And then your leader is going to mutate another devotee into a mutant on turn 1. And then you're going to, on turn 2, transform both those mutants into torments in the strategic phase, and then your leader is going to mutate another devotee into a mutant, and then on turn 3, that guy turns into a torment, and you get 2 more mutants, then your leader mutates another guy. It's just interesting. I think maybe at that point you could start healing guys with your, I don't know. It's really interesting, and this team is just bursting with flavor, and they just look so fun, and I cannot wait to see them on the board. I can't wait to run Torments. They just look so cool. So yeah, let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the new Chaos Cult kill team. I'm excited about it, as you can tell. And check out Ryan's video talking about the Inquisition kill team that he is super excited about. As always, once again, thank you to Games Workshop for sending us the Ashes of Faith box a little bit early. And thank you to all of our subscribers for following along and tuning in and supporting us. Special shout out as well to everybody over at patreon.com/commandpoint and our YouTube membership program. You guys can join that for as low as $1 a month and, just support us any way you want. And then we've also got merch, which we've been putting in the description if you want a cool Command Point mug or hoodie or something like that. They're really comfortable. I recommend you get one, of course. But really, though, everybody have a good time. Enjoy this team. Let me know what you think of it. This is Shane from Command Point, signing out.